Well, good to know.
All right, let's we'll get moving, guys, and then I'm sure people will trickle in as we're going. Elise, we were talking about this video that I'm going to start with.
Okay.
When you got on, I'll find it. So initially, I really liked it because I think Justin does a really good job with the toenail spot. I think it looks like he's minimally using the feet. He's really having to, like, obviously you can see like his back light up and having the contractions. So I wanted to just like start this off with, the fact that I thought it was a pretty good example. Um, Justin brought up, and actually something I noticed was he sent the video because he wanted and had his shirt off on purpose, because he wanted to see like was he getting the lats really engaged and really contracted versus some of the previous conversations we had that he gets a little trap dominant.
Yeah,
And I think I can see him working here, but I do think that like you can see how his traps do a lot of work.
for sure.
Um,
100%. I agree with that.
I think a good cue for this, and like not just for Justin that you're working on this, but for athletes, especially for trying to build strength, or if it could be a banded pull up, a strict pull up, is when they pull down. Think about also like when we set up on the barbell, we go shoulders down and back. That's something I would add into the top of that. So not just pinched, but also like retracting them away from your ears as much as possible. And I really like to use the cue like shoulders and ears because it gives people like a good direction on where to send them. I know like when I first learned, shoulders down and back on a barbell lift, I was just really like doing this the whole time. And I thought I was looking like the video in the picture, and it turned out I was doing what you do and just got really trap dominated. Um,
Can I
Go ahead, Elise.
jump in here?
Chime in.
Do you, how is your like scapular mobility? Do your scaps move?
My right one it moves well. My left one, I was doing some physical therapy on it for a long time because it was just not rotating up well. It was just like kind of like getting cranking and it's like it
Yeah,
just
so
didn't
like a little
rotate well.
discomfort.
But that's been a long time since I even like kind of checked that out. I feel like it's improved. I don't think it's like perfect. Well, I don't think it's as good as the right one at least. But yeah, I've had some issues with that upper rotation on the left scap.
Yeah, because I can see the left one. Definitely, it's more Rocco. It's more
Yeah,
like winged out a little
yeah,
bit. You can see the angle right here. It's very slight.
You
Um,
can see that difference.
yeah. I
yes.
could see it. I think it's pretty
Um,
evident.
Uh, one thing I would suggest, have you ever done like scapular mobs?
Scapular, like a car, like a shoulder car.
So not car. Hold on, guys. Sorry, my dogs are going nuts. So basically, like I like to do this for shoulder warm-ups because it kind of helps loosen your scap. So um, it's kind of hard to view here, but if pretend I'm in tabletop position, right? So
Hmm.
then I'm gonna go like pinch my shoulder blades and push the shoulder blades away. That way you work on the shoulder blades going around, and then you're still in the tabletop, then shrug and down to your back pocket. So now the shoulder blades are going up and down a little bit to
All
It's
try
right.
like you're
like
trying to work them in every direction. You're trying to work them left and right, and
protraction,
then
retraction, upward,
Elevation and
downward.
depression.
Yes. So to try to warm that up a little bit, and then have you ever tried like lat activation prior to like working your lats?
Typically, what I'll
it,
do before doing like my pull-ups work is I'll do banded pull downs,
Yep.
high reps, low weight or low resistance, and then I'll do a couple like maybe 2 sets of 8 ring rows. That's usually like my warm up for like a pull up.
So so when you try to like to activate, so lat pull downs are good because that's light. When you think of activation, you want to think of like trying to start a car, right? You turn the key and it's like you're trying to just connect like get the motor neurons firing. So a good like lat one to do, let me find some wall space here. So I would go up against the wall, literally have my hands here, and then like you're doing a lat pull down, just pull against or push against the door.
On it.
Yep. So just start with like a little lat activation. So you're turning the key, right? So that the lats can start firing and then jump into like a row and like the lat pull downs to try to help just turn on the lats that you're trying to work. See, like
Isometrics, basically.
yes. Yep.
That's cool.
I mean,
I just did it against my chair. I can feel it firing up by just pressing the arm into the chair. So yeah.
Those are great things to do because if you feel the lats aren't firing, like that's a good way to kind of be like, okay, like now you're trying to make that brain muscle connection that you want that muscle to work. So once you get that connection, then you'll start to really like see and feel a difference, I think. See how that works. See if that helps.
I really like that. It goes hand in hand with some of the mobility stuff we talked about a couple weeks ago. But there's another one that I learned, and it was more directed for like women to do it because of the opposite, the pec not firing, and that's basically what it was. Like you had them hold a med ball,
Yep.
and they weren't allowed to use their hands. It had to be like on the forearms, and it was just a squeeze. And you would have them like do carries, so they kind of like got distracted with squeezing. But literally the same thing. All it is isometric. So
Yep.
I really like that press against the wall. That's what that reminds me of.
I need to do that for myself too for that pec thing because my bench press is ridiculously weak, and I'm like, I know it's not working in the morning at all, but in the afternoon, like I can put up another like 10 pounds, 15 pounds heavier. And I bet what you're saying, getting them like ready to fire up for like a morning WOD or whatever, is going to be so much more effective. Kind of going cold a little bit.
The other thing you can see, like if someone's having issues with like their pec not firing, you can see it on like push-ups and like dips. Like
Yeah.
they'll be the person that's doing the push-up and they go into this like immediate like bow, or when they dip, they don't stay straight. They flare like way out, and that's them trying to get into the shoulders for assistance. So when you see somebody doing that, or you're like, if it starts to happen and you're deep into a workout, it could just be fatigue. But if it's like happening off the get-go, then you know there may be, the pecs aren't really playing their part. Real quick before I do want to get back to this because I have a suggestion on the height. Elise, do you have a lot of static when Justin talks?
Yes.
Justin, do you have headphones? I think like the mic on your laptop's like fucking you up. Like we can hear you, it's just super staticky. See if that helps a little bit. I didn't know if it was. I noticed you didn't have them in today. The other thing with the video is, to me, it looks like, Justin, you're definitely like working like a strict chest to bar, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds better, by the way. So I would just maybe adjust the height. I think you were very close on it. By setting up like at your chest. The way I like to set it up, especially for athletes, is if you were going to be at your chest while you're tippy toeing, that's usually a really good height, because then it does two things. Like watch when you start to get to the bottom, you kind of realize you're like, oh shit, I need to move the feet because I'm not going to get a full extension. You have to shift them. So one, it'll help prevent that. But then when you're very aware of like the negative in tempo and doing it well, but when we assign this or we do it in class and we're trying to build strength, if you have them set up at the chest and they have to tippy toe to be at the chest, then it makes them really activate this pull. Like it takes away from them using the feet because you've made them be on their toes immediately, and that's just not a comfortable position to put a lot of body weight in. So I found that was a really nice hack in coaching, and that was just purely I made the mistake and set it too low, and people were doing like bad air squat type joints. So I would just it's probably literally a notch for you. Like you pretty much hit the nail on the head. Just a very slight adjustment there, and things to think about.
Does my mic sound better now? Same.
Yeah, I don't, and maybe it's the connection. I don't know. I thought the headphones might help, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's still staticky.
All right, let's go. Let me see if I get this one. This was an interesting one. All right, I don't know if this is going to be the push press or the push jerk, but the same thing happened. She sent me two. One was a push press, one was a jerk. Play it one more time. What's you guys' like first impression? It could be good, bad, a cue, not a cue, just something you notice.
I mean, she's jumping back on everyone, and I feel she has
That's
to like kind of go around and like make that C, the barbell
yeah.
out of line.
So that's for sure the first thing like I locked into. Like she's jumping back and moving a lot. Like by the third rep, like she's moved substantially. Like I would say she's moved a full foot at least by finishing that third one. And then I think you're spot on. I think because she's having a lot of movement, she now has to like continuously like bring that bar with her, and it causes extra movement, especially when she's up like the lockout and up top. So if you really lock in here, and this is an interesting one because a lot of times the jerk's a little different than a push press because you are going to eventually drift up into the toes because you're shuffling your feet and you're jumping. But like in the push press, people will drive and they even sometimes start in the heels, but then they go all the way into their tippy toes and they're like, yeah, but I didn't do a jerk, and is that wrong because I'm gaining a lot of momentum. This video and her push press is where you can see the problem really lie. So when she does the dip and drive, I'm going to drag this. She gets toesy. It's not like this super bad egregious. Like she starts great, but then when she's changing direction, she's all that weight shift is now forward there. Because it's forward there when she extends, and she does a great job at extending and finishing before she presses, but because she's in the toes, that's what pushes her backwards and makes her jump back. Right. And then this first one, I think, is the one that she plays the line because she jumps back and autocorrects, she almost loses her balance backwards. Watch her go into the heel. And she's like, whoa, and has to refine it for a half second and pause. And you see it even on that one. So when we're looking at, something like a push press, or this push jerk, and it's causing that movement, that can be a problem. So like the easy fix is she needs to focus on driving through her midfoot, through her heels, the entire lift. And if she stays midfoot and she doesn't shift forward here, but she's more midfoot, now we just have everything going straight up, straight down, and she doesn't have that movement that can cause potentially a fail. Especially when we're getting to just heavy loads. Like it's not going to make the biggest difference if she's in a Metcon and she's cycling 65 pounds, like big deal. She's not going to fail that rep, but it's going to be on that heavy clean and jerk that she's doing it at. Do you guys see what I mean here? Because like overall, like you look at the movement and she does a lot of really good things, like very upright torso with her dip and drive. Timing's good.
Slightly in front.
Yep, her setup's great. She makes sure she extends before she presses. She gets under the bar really well with those hips back and down. Like you look at all these things and it checks all the boxes, and then it's just that slight difference that could make a big difference. Not now necessarily, but later. Like when we were talking the other day about some of these faults and how they're going to I'm gonna pull her push press up just so you can see she does the same thing. We won't spend a lot of time, but how some of these faults are gonna exacerbate and they're gonna be a problem as the intensity grows. You know, and intensity being either speed or load. This is a great example. And she does the same thing in a push press. The slide back's not as much. That one was a big one.
Yep.
But you can see how that's causing so much movement there. And you can even kind of almost like, you see her when she gets here, it's not quick. Like she has this like millisecond pause and she like almost has a little bit of a wobble. She finds it and then she comes back down into the touch and go. So even that, if we're talking like she's pausing because she's moving so much and she's making sure that she's balanced, if it was a Metcon and she was doing 30 reps and it was light and she's moving fast, that pause over 30 reps, let's say it's a half a second, you know, now we're talking about a 15-second difference. And if that's for multiple rounds, you know, it does add up. If we're looking at things like she likes to compete, you know, at a local level, stuff adds up. It adds up pretty quick. Let's go. Let's make our way to snatch. I've got a new guy snatching on here, by the way, that we literally taught him how to snatch yesterday. So I'm going to do Justin and then I'll come to him. I gotta find Justin's. You guys can see it, right?
Yeah.
Where is it? I guess it's a good thing. I have a lot of videos again.
Huh.
There it is. Wait. Can you guys see my whole screen?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I thought I clicked on the video. Anyway, this works. My first reaction is actually a positive one off that like first rep. I love your punch. You see it like calm down a little with as you're repping, but especially this first one, you've got a great stick there. And you're like already you're in external shoulder position, so you're in a really nice spot when you finish. A really good job there.
Good cycling. Good tempo.
Yeah, you've got a good timing. Like that bar comes down and it goes into the hip and you go into the dip and then you're back out of it. Let's watch one thing real quick. I'm not watching the arms, but I'm just watching.
Extension.
And yeah, and you're finishing well. Sometimes I see this all the time. People cycle barbells. They like get tall, but they don't actually fully finish. And it just, you know, is going to kill their arms. I would say the biggest thing, just one big thing I would have you work on. What do you guys know what it is?
The barbell close.
I think it's pretty close. That one looked good. It would be those elbows for me.
I was gonna say the bend.
Early pulling,
Yeah.
that's like a thing for me.
Yeah. As soon as you go to your hang, you already start to.
And what's funny about it is it's like I almost don't want to call it an early pull because like you kind of just stay in that exact position and then you still get this extension before you pull like more. So it's just you have this like it is an early pull, but like you get what I mean by saying I almost don't want to call it that.
I should let
Elbow
I should
position.
let the barbell come down my legs more. I'm keeping it at the hip line. I'm not
Yeah,
letting it
so
extend my arms.
my question would be like you have a lot of room up top there. So when we talk about the snatch and we talk about grip position, I want like if I took if I stood just upright, right? I want that bar to be at the toppest, like the tippy top at the lowest point, the top of my crotch, right? Or like right in that hip crease. So let's see when you stand where you look like you are. So you look like there you're in the hip crease. You could maybe go a smidge wider and still be totally fine and get away with it. I definitely wouldn't go narrower from where you are here. But when you come down with those straight arms, do you think you're shrugging here?
I
No,
don't think so.
I couldn't tell. With those straight arms, you should feel that bar in your hip pocket. So I think you do have the ability that if you're going to stay in a high hang, that you can cycle that barbell and it comes down into the hip and it looks like just a push press, dip and drive back up, right? So you have that ability, and that's going to really depend on load if you're going to be able to stay that tall. So you can do that. What you said though about coming down to the thigh would be if you feel like you need a little bit more of that hip closure and you just need a little more help, that's what it would be. A lot of times I see people have like one or two things. They stay tall and they do this high hang and their torso never goes forward, or it's time to hang and they go all the way to the knee. Like it can be just like a little tiny one, like have different degrees of that. But that's definitely what I would practice. Getting down, having the arm straight, and whether you're staying in that high hang, making sure the elbows are locked up, or you're going into a little bit of a hinge, making sure those arms are staying locked out. Um, it's going to be like a hard one. It's going to feel really weird. You'll have to probably start super light to like get a hang of it and slowly, incrementally increase the load. I have the same issue with cleans. I love to have a bent elbow when I'm doing hang cleans, and I hate going straight arms, and it's been a really hard habit to break. But now, even looking at just like we haven't ever had a hang clean in the open besides a dumbbell, but like open standard hang clean, hang snatch. I'm sure competitions. I've seen Wadapalooza do similar stuff to this. They require a straight arm in the bottom. So that would be something that you would have to slow it down if it was in a situation, like the open. Be fast. Like something that helps me is I think be fast on the up. Don't worry about being fast on the down. Because it's when I'm trying to go quick is that when I do the same thing you do. But that would definitely be my biggest takeaway. Again, I love the punch. I love the landing position. You're in a solid base, hips backing down, feet aren't straddling wide. That would really, and like Elise said, like the timing of everything, it looks great. It would just be working here. That'd be my biggest thing.
What gym is that, Justin?
Pompano?
Yeah, Pompano.
A girl from Pompano just followed the coach's page, by the way.
Oh yeah, Emily.
Is that her name?
She's awesome. Yeah, she's really good.
Yeah, I gave her a follow back. Is she a coach or just an athlete?
She's an athlete, but I mean, I think she knows more than half the coaches at the gym.
That happens sometimes. All right, so this is Ty. Me and Hunter went to the gym early to snatch yesterday, and we were like, "Come snatch with us." He was gonna run 2 miles before the running worked out. It's crazy. So this was, I don't think it was his first time snatching, but it was definitely one of the newer times. And then this was a PR. He said he never had done anything close, so everything considered, he did a great job. Or no, he failed this one. He PR'd after.
Ah, yeah, it was
Yeah,
close.
it was there. He like made the next one look super easy with a little bit of a tweak. Um,
Is
we
he
were
barefoot?
coaching. Yeah, he's barefoot. We were coaching him, but also letting him like slightly learn from mistakes. I would say we weren't like over coaching him because we were just kind of having like a little bit of a bro sesh. Immediately off the get go.
Barbell needs to be closer for sure.
Yeah, he's got this drifted away like over the toes. I'm going to tell you guys a quick little backstory. He's reading Matt Fraser's book, and in Matt Fraser's book, Matt Fraser says start Olympic lifts over the balls of your feet. And I explained to Ty that that was a stylistic thing. That when Matt Fraser takes off, everything shifts back and that barbell comes into him. So I said you can't just start there and pull up. But it's a great example of like when we're coaching class, or if someone's a novice in lifting, and the reality is like most of us are novice in lifting compared to like the Olympic weightlifting world. Having the bar away from the body is usually going to lead to things away from the body. So having athletes set up with that bar like more over the shoelaces or like softly against the shins, you're just taking away from less likelihood of error occurring, especially when we're talking about the frontal plane and balancing it. So I agree with you. I think he would benefit from where he's at from rolling that bar back. What else do you guys have?
I think his butt could be up a little more, just slight.
I don't hate that, but I do think like finding some comfort there, maybe that he may feel a little more comfortable with the butt just a hair higher. Because something definitely like looking at this, it doesn't look. I don't want to say it doesn't look uncomfortable, but it doesn't look super fluid and like natural to me.
Yep.
So I do think like he's gonna have some time to maybe find his own about like exactly where to put that. And when I mean butt up, like it would be very minimal, if
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, it wouldn't be anything too drastic, but just I would say just a little. And I feel I can't really tell with his shirt, but I kind of feel that his shoulders are a little bit rounded forward. They should be.
So you're seeing, you're seeing something there, and you're right. Like in person, seeing him, he was a really good example of the person that goes to go shoulders back and down, and he kind of went back and up. Like he went a little bit more into a shrug when it came to tension, rather than squeezing that orange in his armpit. So I do think that would be a good tactile cue moment. And I think if you just show him that one time, he's a great athlete. He's gonna get it pretty quickly. I think he's like 6 months into CrossFit. If you're snatching 155 and 6 months in, you're doing a damn good job.
Yeah.
There's one more thing with this that I don't like, and I think it's what makes him fail this lift later. I think his feet are a
I was gonna
little
say,
wide.
yeah, I was gonna say his stance.
Yeah, it was something I brought up like earlier. You can see it. It's almost hard to see it there, but when he starts to set up here, like before he actually gets down there, you can tell that they're a little bit wider than normal there, before he really pushes his butt down. When he does this lift, watch where he lands. He's already starting wide. He gets wider, right? And not a position that he's going to be able to get into a squat at 155. He did a phenomenal job, in my opinion, especially for being very like new to snatch, that getting the butt back and down. He did a good job at extending and getting short immediately. Just his feet going wide doesn't allow him to get like finish that sink. You see how momentum's going down, and then his body's like, nope, anatomically, no more space here. And then something's got to give. It's the barbell that gets pushed forward.
Yep.
So I think just solely with this lift, a couple starting tweaks leads to a good lift, especially when we talk about the footwork. That's like just where I would start in and focus on him. There's other elements I don't love with it. Watch when he sets his. I'm gonna give you guys two things. When he does set his shoulders, you can see how he kind of shrugs and doesn't go down. And then I would work feet first, and then what's one more thing you guys would work on after he gets feet?
Pulling the barbell to the shins. I feel like that's going to fix a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, I think like with his setup, you
The hip
can
will
be
get
on his
higher.
you can be on his ass about like being closer with the barbell, getting the shoulders down and making sure the feet are in a good spot, which I think all those things will just solve a shitload at one time. That's a static. So I think he can give himself, a mental checklist in his head. Feet, get it close, shoulders, right? He hasn't done anything dynamic. And I think you can simultaneously, or after a couple reps, start to work his lift off. I think if his butt was a hair up, like you're saying, at least this wouldn't be as bad. But as soon as he gets tension and breaks the floor, he goes into like this RDL.
Yep.
Right, and he goes totally parallel. So I think if you set him up and like you see how his hips are still below his shoulders are still in front of the bar. I think if you set him up in that position with the bar on the floor, that'd be an awesome spot for him. Versus look how much lower they are there.
Yep.
Versus here, that would be a better start. And I think it'd be a lot easier for him to keep that chest up through the lift. I would have to ask him to see if he's like a stronger deadlifter or puller than he is like a front squatter. But it just looks like to me his hamstrings and glutes just completely take over, taking off, and his quads just like don't do their job, and that's why it comes flat. But a great example, just like that starting position, feet being a hair wide, they're not even egregiously wide, killed him in that finish. The good news is he did hit this lift in PR afterward.
What adjustments did you give him?
Brought his feet in. That was
That's it.
Yeah, we were talking about one more thing. He does it here, and he was kind of going on and off as he was lifting, doing it better, and then kind of reverting back. Let's see if you guys catch it. I'm gonna speed up your checklist. Like, don't worry about the heels, the knees, the hips. You guys see anything?
Play it one more time.
Watch his bar path.
I was gonna say, did it bounce off his hip? Kind of seated around a little bit.
Yeah, he's got some loopiness there. I don't know that he smacks it off the hip. Maybe very slight, but it's not like he gave the bar a baby.
Yeah, but it wasn't
he,
wasn't like a usual like bang off.
yeah,
But
that path is not there though. He's a little out in front, and it gets to this little bit of a flicky over top. That was the other thing that were working on. I gave him the cue that if he was in like a hallway and he was facing the wall, don't hit my wall. That one works. That's one of my favorite imaginations to use. It works like a freaking charm. So we were working on that, but the main one after this lift was just bring your feet in, dude, and that seemed to solve it. His lighter weights, he got much better at staying close and punching. But I know damn well I wasn't snatching 155 6 months in. Let's see. We have a failed heavy snatch. We have my weird. Let's do this one because we have the thruster and I think some pull-ups.
I want to see this. You guys are talking
There's
about.
gonna be a disclaimer. There's gonna be a whole shitload to unpack with this one. Entertaining too. Just off of that, not movement, not anything else. What do you guys think of just off of those two thrusters?
I mean, you got into the toes at the squat, bottom of the squat.
Not even a cue. Yeah. That's
Fatigue.
I think
fatigue. You're hanging out up top of that bar, just up there. Like, let me hang as long as I can.
So at least you're totally right. And Justin, you're right. In my actual movement, there's just so much going on here that's not great, right? My rack position's not super strong, right? I don't have a good rack, so I'm finger tipping the bar.
Yeah, I was like, that was like more of a front squat hold than
yeah,
a thruster.
I don't currently physically have the ability to close my hand on a barbell in a front rack. It's impossible. If I do, it means my elbows are like behind the bar and I look like I'm a 55-year-old masters that bench pressed my whole life. Um, no offense to the masters out there, but it's true. Yeah, get super toesy. There's this. I was very proud of my uprightness personally. I felt like that was a massive win for me because that's really hard for me to do. But even with that, you still see I get toesy, I teeter forward, and you still see in the turnaround I have a little bit of a give. And I was good for 3 rounds, 4-5, back blew up, and that's why that's happening. I'm in the toes, so the spinal erectors are overdoing their job, quads are overdoing their job, and I sure as hell felt that in the days after. And the erectors just took a beating, basically. But to Justin's point, yeah, just absolute. I
You
don't
look
want to
like
say
you did not
absolute.
want to do those 2 reps.
That's it. Fatigue was there, but I just didn't want anything to do with this workout anymore. And like a couple things. That means I broke on rep 8, which was I going to fail thruster? Absolutely not. Didn't need to break rep 8. I could have done 9, 10. And then I do that rep and I'm like, this sucks. And I just stop. So I think from a psychological standpoint, I just didn't want to be here anymore, basically. I'm bringing that up because I think whether you're just an athlete or a member in the gym or you're a coach, like recognizing some of those signs and how you're going to approach that athlete can be a really important thing. I'm not the person, and I think this athlete that is just absolutely over it at this point, they're not crushing the workout. They're probably not feeling too good about themselves. They're not the person to be like, pick it the fuck up and scream at. That's just going to upset them more. They're going to go into this defensive, like, fuck yourself mentality. And it's just not going to do anybody good. And it's potentially going to make the room awkward versus this person. And like, I personally do respond much, much better to this. Just some light encouragement. Even though I'm getting smoked. Nice job, Nate. Good work. Keep it up. Just very subtle, very small motivations. And on a day-to-day class, we're not going at the level that we're doing the open, but that does, we encounter that every single day. That's why I'm a big supporter of like, yeah, rally the troops and support people finishing, but to be in their faces doing this is not the most important appropriate thing all the time. There was a girl one time doing deadlifts at an old gym that absolutely stopped and like cursed the class out and was like very upset to the point where she had to like fully apologize to everybody. And it was just because like it was very evident she was in this kind of state and someone was pushing the entire class to circle her and it became overload and she just broke. And then it's awkward for everybody. So I did want to point that out. Before I get to those, whatever the hell I'm about to do on my chest to bars, the pause here, way too long. There is still time under tension, but I don't mind that when it's coming to like a shoulder to overhead position.
I feel like for me too, like that's where I break. If I'm doing a lot of thrusters, I break up there.
It's a great spot to get your breath.
Yeah. But a lot, and it's funny because a lot of people like at least at Riptide, they rested here.
Kills
I
me.
think this is more tension. I
Me
think this
too.
is worse.
Me too. And like especially in my mobility and position, the front rack's not good. So like me and my front rack, I don't even have the bar fully resting on my shoulders. I'm at full tension in my shoulders, my triceps, everything is on, even my forearms. So for me to stop here is really inefficient. Versus if someone else has great mobility and they do feel comfortable there and it's just totally resting, awesome. Like that, let them go with it. But this overhead, like when you see athletes do that, or like even experiment it with yourself, like at least you do it, but like Justin, I'm not sure where you break. It's a good spot to where if you're redlining to get some good breaths of oxygen in. I just would not stay this long. It's like a 1,000 and back down. Not I did like a 1,000, 2,003. I was like, don't drop it, don't drop it. All right, let's look at my pull-ups. Oh yeah, this was the chalk moment. It was a bar, but I was like, you know what? We got time. Oh, I didn't even do my butterflies. This was a single round. So I had like a weird pattern going. I would do like 4 butterflies, look like I'm fit, and then just implode and do these weird singles afterward. Um, part of the reason I was going to the singles wasn't because of a pull fatigue. I was just getting so out of breath that when I do chest to bar butterflies, it's harder for me to breathe. So going to these, I felt like I could just manipulate the body and like teeter up and get the rep in while still being able to have the breath there. Um, what do you guys see? I think Jose was waiting for the butterflies and decided it was too long.
Huh.
What do you guys see with this pull up? What, if anything, would you change?
I would, I mean, I know it sucks, but I definitely would have gotten to a higher bar because I
Yeah,
feel,
that bar's too
yep,
short.
yeah, you can't swing through with your feet all the way. So you're using more, lats than like letting your hips help you.
I think you're pretty spot on with that. So like this bar, I had to jump the one that's in the corner up there, and I didn't touch the floor. That should have been like really the bar I was on the entire time. I liked this low ass bar because I was so fucking tired toward the end. I didn't have to jump, so I kind of like intentionally was doing it. But you're spot on. Like I am using my hips pretty well, but also I think I could be using them a lot more aggressively. Like they're there, they're helping, but it could have been more umph and taken like I had the ability to do a chest bar pull up with zero, like almost zero pull with the arms, like literally rocket myself up there. And because that bar was short, like you're saying, and I have to start my pull up like that, pulling my feet off the floor, I couldn't whip it as hard because I was gonna hit. And then the other just risk factor, like if this is somebody doing it in class or it is for the open and the reps do count, I'm really risking a no rep here. Because if I kick the floor, Justin was my judge. Can't see him, but he's in there. He has no option but to no rep me, because it has to start with the dead hang. So I was really like playing a little bit of a risk game with these. What's some other advice, like not even technique wise, like looking at this from a coach's point of view? We're trying to maximize time.
I like it that you
What's
you stayed close to the bar, like you're trying to, because if you walked away, you would have given yourself a longer break. So staying like you just took a step back, took a breath or two, and then went right back up to it. If you're exhausted at that point, at least you're chipping away at the reps.
I think you're spot on with like staying in the vicinity. I do think it could be better though. For me, and this is like knowing me, but you have to like sometimes say like who's who on this. Some people do a really good job of coming down, right? They land, they do this, and then they go back, and it's
Yeah.
like one step. I've got 2 steps and a pause, and then 2 steps forward. So if you just cue me as a coach, you'd be like, Nate, take 1 step. Now I'm saving it's 10 reps. I'm saving 20 steps of a workout with a pause. Like not a lot, but over, a handful of rounds, that's going to really add up too. The other thing, if there's no rule on you have to face a certain way, what I should have done was a single spun around in a single. So now I've eliminated all steps. That's a really good way to do it too. So like if I was breaking myself down and I know I'm going to be, by the nick of time to get that second round in or that second part first round in, which I didn't make here, that could have been a difference of getting some of those thrusters and maybe bar muscle up if I would have just either taken 1 step and stayed even closer or would have done the spin. I don't think there was a rule with facing a certain direction for the open on this. So I would have been good for it. That is something that you have to be considerate about when it comes to competitions. Sometimes they're like face the crowd, and if you
Yeah.
don't, they just no rep you even if they're good reps.
Yep.
So that's definitely something just to be mindful of.
So
Anything else want to add?
just to with the singles, because for me, when I did mine, like one cue that I got kind of pissed me off. The barbell was easy for me. I did the
Yeah,
barbell
you're
on,
great at that.
yeah. But the chest to bar is what killed me. That's like I did sing the first round, I did set to 2. Then after that, I did singles because
Fast
my
single.
heart rate, yeah. Because I just wanted to stay at a consistent rate. And I like I stepped away and I, like kind of just caught my breath. And Santi was there. He was like, "Come on, Elise, these are singles. You can go faster." It's like, okay, that's not exactly the right cue I need right now. Like,
That's the thing about like that is like I'm saying, I have to recognize in an athlete like this moment in time, like you also have to recognize this as well for me, right? And for you too. I don't think like I'm breathing heavy, but if you look at my breath, I don't think I'm like fully hyperventilating. I think for me in this position, you don't see me doing this breathing.
right,
For me, it's going back to what I did on those 2 thrusters. Like, I don't want this smoke no more. Right. So I think like that cue that he gave you would have applied pretty good probably here and like what we just talked about. Recognizing when you took that step away, did you just hammer singles or you just come off the barbell? Are you hyperventilating? So if someone's rib cage is expanding and they're doing that, that's not just like a be like, okay, I can get back on. Like you're actually like in a bad spot now, and you may have to actually take that second. So I think you have to look at that and where am I? And like as an athlete, you feel where you are. And like I'm being honest with myself, saying there was a lot more gas in this tank. I just didn't want it. Like how much gas was in that tank in that moment in time for you too. So
yeah,
like taking a 10-second may have been the very smart thing to do because if you weren't finished with that 5 rounds and you needed more, that could have just gotten worse.
right,
I also think this workout in particular, 24.3, was this like interesting game that was played. You're good on the barbell. So you can go unbroken on the barbell. I'm not great on the barbell, right? I can go unbroken. It's a bad idea. And then there's people that, are saying like, I have to break the barbell and be smart. I almost think this workout, because the rep scheme was low, was like a bait you to hang on to the bar. And unless you're this high end athlete that is like, I've got great thrusters and great chest to bar pull ups, it's a bait to fuck you up. And I think that's maybe kind of what happened to you. We're saying like if you would have done half and half, that would have made the barbell like an easy joke for you,
yeah,
but it would have made your chest to bars better, right? I think you're in a very interesting situation because the muscle up's going to give you a lot of trouble, and
yep,
like that might not happen. So it does become the game of like um, getting a fast tie break time. So I don't know what would be the right move or the wrong move in that, but this is a good workout, and like any other workout to say like how is X movement going to affect the next movement, and like take that into heavy consideration. Like anytime I'm bad at something, even if I'm good at something beforehand, I'm cautious on the thing I'm good at because I know I'm going into something I'm bad at. And even if it's with just a little fatigue, I'm already bad at it, not fatigued, like it's going to be a problem.
yep,
But I do think you're right. Like if you're hyperventilating in a spot like you are, like there's nothing you can really do about that. Like the moment in time has passed that you've already fucked up kind of
right.
thing, Um, do you guys want to try to look at one more? We got 5 minutes, or do you want to call it a day and we'll save them?
I'm good either way.
Let's
Yeah,
see. Let's save it.
okay.
We'll save it. Yeah, now it's 4 minutes. That made my mind up. Yeah, we'll call it a day. Since I've got you guys on right now, I'll probably still ask the group afterward. We hit like the main programming. We hit accessory programming. There from like a level 3 standpoint, like I know at least and I know it's like looming in Jose's mind. I know you guys are kind of prepping for that. There is some like physiological based articles that can be related to programming that we can go down, or is there like any other topics that you guys are curious of seeing?
I was actually talked about it with D because we reorganized I printed out all the articles and like she was like, oh, it's actually broken up into, you know, screening,
Like
coaching,
sections.
teaching. Yeah. And I was like, oh shit, I actually didn't see that. I just printed them all out when they were laid out. So we reorganized it. And I feel like, I know it's probably weird, but like I'm a little worried about the nutrition portion.
We can get into
Um,
some nutrition.
I think, yeah, just a little bit with that. And then just going into, uh, like just people like dealing with, uh, like kids and like master.
Masters.
Yeah, just all that. And like maybe we can
That
even
that may be a
consider the
good
programming.
that may be a good like route to go down too. We could start to work our way through like the master's manual and the kids manual. Obviously those are big, so we wouldn't do that just like in a week because I don't expect anybody. I don't know how many pages, but I don't expect anybody to go read 100 pages. So we could do probably those in some sections and start to work through. Um, the cool thing about both of those is like they are very relatable to just our training as well, especially when it comes to like the simplicity of things that you get with kids and then some of the maintenance and thoughts that you need to have with masters. Both of those things very heavily apply, you know, with a 25-year-old that's super fit.
Yeah.
So we can do that and we can get into nutrition and try to relate nutrition to like other problems too. Like we've gone through it before, but I would like to maybe relate it to like performance more and relate it to chronic disease more.
Yeah.
Just because that's going to make us better coaches, but then, maybe something you need as well. And at the end of the day, the pyramid is still nutrition. So
By the way,
we're
I
not getting
really
away with
read
it.
the aging, like the master's manual. I read that whole thing. That was actually, to be honest, it was quite boring, but it had some good stuff
It's
in there.
the masters is not, I signed up for the course. I'm like in the course right now. And I will say it's not super fun.
Yeah.
It's very slow moving and like kind of there's just not a lot of excitement about it, but it's needed. Um, Justin, you got anything? Because we can also like mix and match a little bit too.
I mean, I like where you're going with the programming on the
Okay.
physiological side.
We'll get we'll start to like blend them. We'll go because it's kind of crazy when you really break it down. Everything really is tied in. We'll go like physiological into
Like kids
nutrition
and
because nutrition's also going to heavily impact what's happening inside the body too. So I'll kind of like bridge the gap between like that programming and that into nutrition talking. And then we can talk about performance, like chronic disease, and then chronic disease can kind of link our gap right into masters.
Something I would be interested on the nutrition side is how would you best calculate a macro prescription, for someone? Like, what's a good